press play. Don't pause, pause.
Comics Plus, what is going on? My name is Akasan. How you guys doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing swell. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're coming from. It is the weekend is over now for me, at least. I didn't really prepare anything, but I just wanted to give you my comments on Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It actually passed 71 million dollars, which is a brand new record for any sort of video game franchise movie coming out the gate. Paramount must be very, very happy to make up for their very, very disappointing Halo series, so I'm told. So as I said, I didn't really prepare anything. I just wanted to let you know that I had a great time watching this movie. I actually saw it in an American location. It was about 60%, 70% kids in there, so I was a little worried coming up with that right off the gate, is that it was going to be kind of noisy. The place I saw it, you couldn't really hear the audio so well, so we actually had to move the seats up much further up so we could just hear what was going on. I've had that same problem with Spider-Man No Way Home, Black Panther, a few others, but the trade-off is the fact that being in an American audience, or just at least a Western audience, you're going to get that audience reaction a lot more than, you know, the things you always see on YouTube and stuff. We don't get that in Japan. Everybody is super quiet, respectful, just they don't say anything. And sometimes that can be a little bit of a hindrance in the fact that there's points when you're supposed to be laughing or whatever, but nobody's saying anything. For example, when I saw No Way Home this year in Japan, when it came out, like what, 3 weeks, a month later, when it came out early January, when certain people showed up, nobody said, there was no cheer, no reaction. I think my girlfriend didn't even know that, like, Andrew Garfield was just, she was like, oh, she just recognized it as not being Tom Holland, not being a legacy sort of character. And then even further with Tobey Maguire, but it also makes sense. But it was super quiet. I heard one guy like, like, kind of like gasp, like, what the? But that was about it. So it's a big difference. So I think that's what really sold me for this particular movie. Particularly, I ended up bringing Yuriko Tiger, famous Italian cosplayer. I know she's a huge fan, and we don't get Sonic the Hedgehog in Japan until August. Yes, that is correct, until August. So I knew she wanted to see it right away, and she was in tears at the end of this movie. And so it was really refreshing. I think that's the thing that stood out for me the most, is that it was really refreshing to just see people excited about a franchise. I was telling my good friend at the end of the movie, I was just like, man, to see people, like, the end credits, without spoiling anything, the end credits, I haven't heard an ovation like that, well, since No Way Home, but, for like a very MCU type of thing, it's been a long time, outside of No Way Home. But the ovation, it was the loudest pop of the night, the end credits. Man, it was wild. It was really wild to see. And like I said, Yuriko Tiger was in tears, just in tears, because it's for, I think, for MCU fans, DC fans, but mainly MCU fans, it's very typical. Like, it's like, all right, cool. But the thing is, we haven't, in the MCU, they've pretty much have just done everything you can think of at this point, right? And it's going to be hard to introduce somebody or tease somebody that everybody's gonna kind of like have been waiting for. You know what I mean? Like the next thing I can think of is probably Doctor Doom, and that's a stretch, considering we've had Doctor Doom in cinema already. So, sorry, allergies, not Coke. So, sorry, allergies. But it was just so refreshing to see people like happy, enjoying it. in tears, excited about a franchise, excited about the story. It's definitely a movie for kids, for sure. But it reminds me, and again, that's why I say it's so refreshing, that it has the beats of a Disney product, a Marvel, MCU type of Disney type product, but or Pixar, I would even say. But the fact that it's just a different franchise, a different company just doing it and succeeding at it this time, you know, unlike what, well, we'll talk about the DCU another day. But to see another franchise, another company kind of using some of those nods, but still having its own identity was just so refreshing to see kids laughing at certain jokes when Knuckles would do something or when Tails would do something, or there would be a whole dance sequence. You know, kids were really enjoying it. But then the fact that they'll take a joke, they'll take a stab at The Rock, Vin Diesel, or Pantera will be playing in the background. They have I think it's Montel Williams, This Is How We Do It. All the music was basically from the 90s. There's enough for adults, there's enough for parents to be enjoying it as well. So I thought that was a really good blend, and like I said, I haven't seen that since the Pixar Disney days of like Toy Story, where there's something for adults and then there's something for kids. And so I think Sonic, this particular one, in comparison to the first movie, found its identity and figured out what it wants to be and how it's going to portray things, but give enough nostalgia for the old school gamer fans. But it's still enough for kids to be like, you know what? This is a cool little thing. You know, when they finally make another game, a Sonic game, that these kids watching this movie will actually get into it. So, I like that a lot. Idris Elba, is that how we're pronouncing his name? I don't know. I've never heard it focused or vocalized. His partake of his version of Knuckles was really cool. Like, to be honest, I'm not so familiar with Knuckles because I think after Sonic 2, I kind of dropped off. When they introduced Knuckles was for whatever reason, maybe because they changed the game system, I don't know. But I thought it was too much. I was okay with Tails, and that was enough, right? So I never really got so much into Knuckles, so I didn't know much about him. But the way he's portrayed is very Drax-ish, like Guardians of the Galaxy, where everything is taken literally. But it was pretty awesome. Like, I'll have to give props where props is due. The way they introduced a lot of the characters, the way they introduced everybody, and had certain framing, particularly when Knuckles first shows up, the framing that they used for him and the music that was used for him worked really well. That, yes, he's kind of like Drax, and he takes everything literal, which people would look at him being dumb, but no, he just looks at things very clearly, right? Or very black and white, right? Without knowing metaphors, but he still was pretty cool. That's what was kind of dope. Tails, from what I'm told, the voice actress is the same actress from all the cartoon series, so I thought that was a great option, because Tails worked really well. Like, again, I only know Tails basically from Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the game, and then the Jaleel White shows. The one was on ABC, the other one was on UPN. But I really didn't have any sort of contrast as to what Tails is all about. But I thought it worked. She worked really well in her portrayal, and the fact that they were able to introduce both Tails and Knuckles in the same movie and quickly have them kind of work things out and have their differences and have Tails and Sonic sort of team up. It didn't really feel so forced. It felt natural enough. The only thing that for me was I heard on Instagram, one of my followers were telling me, like, the critics were panning this movie because there wasn't enough human interaction. And to me, that's the same with Godzilla, with all the other, like I'm not watching this movie for the humans, right? I didn't, for me personally, I'm like, yo, Cyclops, I don't care where you died. Yes, Gene, this is where Gene killed you on this lake. That's about where your story ends and begins, buddy. Like, it wasn't a big deal for me with this dude, because that dude is always going to be Cyclops to me, so I couldn't get that out of my head for the most part. But and then there was the other guy that's always in a lot of the black movies. I think he might have been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., possibly, but you know, there was this whole story going on about a wedding or whatever. For me, that actually felt like a bit of a drag, and I felt like that could have been cut to keep the runtime even lower. But you know, I also accepted it for what it was, and like there were some reoccurring characters that were apparently in the first movie that I completely forgot about. So there was like an Olive Garden joke. Like it's weird. For the first movie for me was kind of just like this pandemic movie that I just watched at home, and I'm like, yeah, you know, that was pretty good. But my mind was so focused on not dying from COVID that I just really didn't have that much time to like focus on. Like I was like, all right, that was cool. Yeah, you know, looking forward for tomorrow, and that's about it, right? And then on top of that, the one of the things that was really jarring for me personally was it wasn't as bad as Mustache Gate. I'm talking about the first movie. It wasn't as bad as the Justice League Mustache Gate, but you could certainly tell it was a little jarring knowing that they remade and recut and kind of reshot certain things with the new Sonic character design. Like sometimes the eye level and things didn't look like it. Sonic really felt like he was sticking out of the actual movie at times. And so I couldn't really turn that off in the first movie. This movie, much better. If I were to make any sort of critique, I would have liked to have seen a little more like creativity in terms of the CG characters working with the real life environment. Sometimes it felt like they stood out more than needed. Like I think with this particular style, the way they actually did this movie was they used just stand-ins, right? Behind the scenes, I think they just used stand-ins. And I would have preferred them to go the Guardians of the Galaxy route or something, or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles route, where they have mocap suits and they can sort of replace the character like that, because there were just certain times where the interaction with the CG characters like Knuckles, Sonic, and Tails didn't really look like it like matched the same way. And there's a part of me that still understands why they were kind of going with that original Sonic, like really realistic sort of design, because once they went to this more cartoony or video game style, sometimes it felt like it wasn't matching what was being shot, and you could tell the actors didn't really know what they were, you know, the eye direction they were supposed to be looking at. But that was a very, very minor thing. I'm like, it's a kid's movie, right? So I'm not gonna get overly on this, and you know, it's not gonna be the same standard as like Disney's CG work and things like that. So it's whatever. I think for what it was worth, it was really good. And like I said, I cannot wait, man. They sold me with Pantera. That was it. That was probably the loudest pop for me that night, just to hear some Pantera music, and I was just like, all right, I love this movie. So we can probably get into spoiler chat in the near future. I just want to let you guys know that this was the most, by far, like at first I was thinking, because I saw No Way Home the beginning of this year, so Sonic was the second most entertainable, enjoyable movie this year. But technically speaking, I saw No Way Home in December. So yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was the most, for me, I can already hear some people out there, for me was the most enjoyable, most entertaining, laughable, sort of overall feel-good movie this year. It's only April. People think I hate everything that comes out. That is not true. I've had a pretty good track record this year with The Last Kingdom, some other stuff that came out, Attack on Titan, some other things. But yes, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was amazing, and it was the most enjoyable movie for me this year. And I cannot wait to see what they have planned for the future. As long as they can kind of keep this pacing going with something for kids to help grow the franchise, to grow into it, and something for adults in the nostalgia baiting, but not too much. I think the franchise is in some really good hands, and I cannot wait for the third movie. Stay tuned for the next big movie, which is probably going to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We'll talk to you very soon. Gotta be fast!